So hello and welcome to the video. I've now made two videos about tier point runs. The first covered definitions and how to find them, and it's linked up here and down in the description below. Part 2 covered optimization and booking and can be found up here and also down below. Well, it covered quite a lot about optimizing trips, but as it turns out, not enough. So this video 3 will cover a little bit more about optimization and a little bit more about booking. So stick around.
Hi, I'm Matt. Over the last 25 years, I've travelled a lot. I've lived in 5 countries on 4 continents. I've flown over 1.3 million miles. I've visited over 100 countries, every American state, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. But I'm nowhere near done. So hit subscribe and perhaps you'll pick up some hacks, hints and tips to make your next trip better.
Videos 1 and 2 in this series were quite hard to make. Hopefully that's something that's not obvious from watching them. The problem is that these fares can disappear at any time, and for various reasons I was looking at dates only just outside the 180-day booking window. So I needed to get everything filmed as quickly as possible so the same fare would flow through both videos. Once the footage was in the can, so to speak, the fare was still there, so I was able to have a more leisurely browse through the options in an attempt to find an itinerary that would actually work for me. And in the process of tinkering, I was able to wring a few more tier points out of that fare. Fortunately, I had my screen recorder on while I tinkered, so that will allow me to show you what I did and to go a bit deeper into optimization. And I'll show you what I actually booked. If you're new to all of this, I would recommend you watch the first 2 videos before getting stuck into this one. So, I started by checking that the fare was still available by checking the calendar of fares, and it was there. A couple of quid more expensive from foreign exchange movements because this fare is actually based in Bulgarian lebs. Then add the routing you wanted, and there you go. The fare moved a few quid, but adding airports to the itinerary will do this, as many will add a fee into the fare for using that airport. I then broke the fare out on the multi-city tab. I don't have any evidence of this, but my experience is that by putting an entire complex itinerary into the round trip tab can lead to it missing stuff, as there is a limit on the amount of options that it can present to you. The multi-city tab seems to break up that processing and present you with more options. You get to break it into 6 legs, so you might as well do so. You do need to think about the dates quite hard when you do this, and you may lose the fare if you get it wrong. Don't worry, just jiggle the dates, and also bear in mind overnight flights. And bingo, the fare is still there. So, having split out the fare, adding Madrid on the way out now works, out and back, which takes this to 880 tier points for £1,090, which is £1.24 each. Pretty reasonable flight times too. Madrid is not an unpleasant airport to transit through. So I've tried Helsinki outbound and got it. As Helsinki is a short haul plus location earning 80 tier points, we're now up to 920 tier points at £1.21 each. A 50-minute connection in Helsinki though, which is a challenge. It used to be the case that no flights leaving London in the morning reached Helsinki in time to connect with their New York flight, so it is quite nice to see that that has now changed. Although 50 minutes is not long. They'll sell you a ticket with a risky connection like this, but you might not want to buy it. If your London flight is delayed for whatever reason and you miss your connection, then your subsequent flights will topple like dominoes, which can be a problem if the point of the trip is to earn tier points. However, there is a get out here called Original Routing Credit, or ORC. If you experience IROPS or irregular operations and are rerouted to your destination in a routing which is less efficient for tier points, you can retrospectively claim the tier points and I think the avios that you would have earned if you had stuck to your original routing. Hence, Original Routing Credit. That process is a bit of a pain, and some airlines are better than others at processing those claims, but even with that backstop, this is a quite risky itinerary for me to contemplate. Even in the summer, it would be very difficult to do this, I think, in the winter. Others, though, may have a different attitude. So, back to the optimization. Helsinki wasn't possible on the way back, which could be a flight timing issue or a maximum permitted mileage issue. So 920 tier points seems to be the limit on this fare, but that's pretty good. Barcelona on the outbound worked if you fancied it and were fed up of Madrid. I tried Amsterdam and Dublin without success, but I'd expect other locations to be available if you had a strong preference and were happy to keep hunting. So I reverted to a fare with the Helsinki Shuffle and chose the individual flights option, which cycles through the 6 legs and allows even greater finessing of options. Still not a perfect routing, but it is bookable. I then stopped recording but continued to tinker to try and find an itinerary for me, and I found one. It's not an ideal tier point run itinerary, but I don't actually need tier points this year, and I am quite keen on gathering content for this channel. So I made 2 changes to that 920 tier point itinerary and booked it. The connection from Helsinki to New York was very tight at 50 minutes, but there is a Finnair flight from Helsinki to Los Angeles later on that day. This allows me to leave London a little later and have a lie-in, and then travel on Finnair's A350 across to Helsinki before connecting onto another one to Los Angeles. That allows a bit of time in Helsinki to explore the lounge as well, which I hear is pretty good, pandemic permitting. So I drop 140 tier points by skipping the New York leg, but I'm quite excited to experience Finnair's A350 on a fairly long flight. I will then connect on to Las Vegas that same night, which will give me a couple of hours in the LAX lounges, which are all pretty good, immigration queues and pandemic permitting. Coming back, I wanted to go back on the A321 Transcon service that I talked about in my second video. And by avoiding an overnight flight on that equipment, I'll actually see and enjoy the experience. I couldn't get a San Francisco transfer to work on this occasion, which is a shame, as I would have been keen to add a 23-hour connection there, as I discussed in my second video. I could have done this in Los Angeles or New York, but I don't think either of those cities lend themselves particularly well to that sort of short stop. I'm happy with that time in Vegas though, although I do have an eye on trips from Vegas that might make interesting content. The second change I made was to come back directly to London rather than to go via Madrid. This sheds another 40 tier points, bringing me down to only 740 at a cost of £1.41 each. Last time I came back from Madrid, I found it a bit tough on the body and didn't completely enjoy it, so I decided on this occasion to skip it and fly directly back to London instead. If I were making this trip to requalify for gold, I would probably have added it. So in considering the direct flights back to London, all of the BA flights offered were on the old style club seating, which I describe as the club dormitory, and I'm not in love with it. So I'm plumped for an American Airlines flight back. I'll be travelling on BA later this year, and I'm keen to show you the American Airlines transatlantic experience. Then of course I will fly that last flight back to Sofia, even if I don't cover it on this channel. As I said in my last video, don't drop the last leg. Which brings up a small point that I omitted from video 2, which is whether you actually need to fly the first leg from Sofia to London. It would be much more convenient to just be able to get on in London. Well, the answer to that is no, no and no, with no exceptions and no workarounds. If you miss the first leg of an itinerary, all of the further legs will automatically be cancelled. So no, you have to take the first leg and the last one. I have recorded my call to the BA contact centre to book this, and I had intended to include it in this video, but I've since discovered that recording a telephone call for profit in the UK is illegal, so it's probably best that I don't. But suffice it to say, the call went very well, and I was able to get every flight that I wanted at exactly the price that I wanted, first time and quite quickly. And the agent was able to shift every leg onto a BA flight number, which sounds like a small thing, but it means I'll now earn the Avios bonus for having gold status on every one of those flights. Had I travelled on American Airlines or particularly Finnair, that wouldn't necessarily have been the case. So in total, I will earn 43,929 Avios. I only get just over 40,000 when I put each leg through the BA Avios calculator, but I'll take 43,000. I made a couple of videos about the BA Executive Club, again linked up here and down in the description, and in them I talked about the value of an Avios being perhaps 1p. So in addition to the 740 tier points, I'm also going to be earning about £439 worth of value through those avios. So the net price of this itinerary, taking into account those avios, is only £608 for 720 tier points, which is pretty good. So there you go, a bonus third video about tier point runs. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment, please like this video, that really helps me out, and also subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.